Well, ladies and gentle giants, you all have survived the hiatus. Hope you all kept your eyes peeled because the Owl House is back, and so is the return of Emperor Belos. And just as anyone would suspect, there is a lot to unpack within this Season 2 premiere. There honestly wasn't as much hype as I wanted it to be, but you all know what this show is all about already, I guess. You're watching The Next Big Thing, and it's time for things to get weird. Roll that intro, my guy. The beginning takes us to today's events, with Luz reenacting her same witch speech when encountering a beast.
Now eat this, sucker!
Only this time, it clearly is a threat barely worth looking into. So much so that King himself eats him like a chew toy, and all of this is due to the events that occurred in the Season 1 finale. But more on this after I discuss the show's new introduction. The new introduction includes quite a bit of interesting new redesigns, backgrounds, and much more, which is clear to see, but get an even more detailed breakdown of every secret in the intro within the analysis video I made. After the introduction, Luz makes a gigantic documentary overviewing the happenings of what transpired during the end of Season 1, some of which containing her confession and taking part in choosing to destroy the portal to the human realm, and also mentioning how she still has possession of the original key to the portal. May it control the rebuilt portal that Belos is soon to create. During Luz's film, we see that Ida officially is confirmed to be able to perform magic, but just definitely nowhere near as well as she could before. There's also Lilith, who still struggles with guilt for cursing her sister years ago. Plus, just like the new introduction of the show portrays, we witness a now broken down Lilith going from riches to rags. Towards the end of Luz's message to her mother, she says a phrase in Spanish, which I'm sure at least some of you are curious to know what it is. She was saying, "I love you, Mom. I promise you I'll be back home soon." The saddening part about this scene is that Luz can no longer retrieve items from Earth in order to sell on the Boiling Isles, or get signal to send messages to her mother. So this is why we see Luz bounty hunting for money, so that way there's some flow of income. Ida and Lilith head their way to the market, and during their interactions with one another, Ida expresses that she had to deal with being cursed for 30 years, meaning that she and Lilith are both potentially in their late 30s or early 40s, given their approximate teenager age from the flashback given to us. Also, what's up with the number 30? In Gravity Falls, Stanford was trapped outside of his dimension for 3 decades too. But I guess that would explain the 30 and 40 mug. When they all first arrive at the market, we also see just how much more of a dictator Emperor Belos has become, with his security becoming tighter, more images depicting himself being displayed everywhere, as well as merchandise and more. There's also the constant crud he puts out to everyone, forcing them to choose a coven. Still could be using this tactic for a secret magic stealing device, I bet. Another significant detail is how everyone in the Boiling Isles is aware of Ida's now powerless state, and therefore no longer sees her as a potential threat, giving this guy the guts to con Ida out of her bounty payment. Lilith also has to bite the dust, as she too must learn to humble herself, no longer possessing the respect she once had when with Emperor Belos. Cause clearly she must not have gotten the memo about her betraying the Emperor. I mean, I really don't understand how she didn't see that coming, or why it took the people so long to take down those posters. Anyways, it's revealed that the Golden Guard takes the light of attention instead, as I believe second in command. Lilith describes him as a teenager brat, which makes more sense as to why we see him to be relatively young when seen in the introduction exposed. Luz suggests going out to sea and search for a Selkie Damas, to which Ida disagrees to in order for all of them to keep a low profile, despite them being out in the open at the market, but what do I know? Instead, why not just stick with creatures like the abominable cutie pie? Yeah, so obviously Luz does the exact opposite of Ida's idea because of her extreme internal guilt of technically being the reason for Ida's capture and the Earth portal's destruction. She eventually makes it to the port of Bonesboro, where she signs up for the Selkie Damas hunt, something she gets accepted into as a setup by the Golden Boy prodigy himself. However, I do believe the captain of the crew was genuinely beginning to like Luz for the incredible work she helped everyone do while on board. I also just have to mention the Golden Guard's theme, which reminded me of the Prowler's theme from the Spider-Verse film, which was an incredible movie, by the way. We're then shown how Lilith is doing as she's seen wallowing in self-pity for cursing Ida while attempting to earn her trust. Ida herself barges in and explains that though most of her witchy powers are depleted, she still has her talents in the potion making department, and just by going off from her old Hexite attire, that was always her main ability. After Ida's small visit, Lilith does the next best thing and decides to make a potion that allows the people from within the Owl House to spy from inside of the Emperor's temple. She adventures her way to do so by attempting to grab all of the needed ingredients for it, which she soon has to admit she needs help with. Something she eventually does after being surrounded and literally tries to swat off a group of fiery bees with a wooden stick. Yeah. She clearly isn't used to not having her powers. Of course, she intended on doing so alone due to her guilt and stubbornness, and once again, she struggles to humble herself. Back to Luz and King helping to capture the Selkie-Damas. After Luz proves her worth, King discovers that the ship is of the Emperor's after stumbling upon Belos' sigil on an envelope and many artifacts inside. Also, I understand that it was a small detail, but did anyone else notice the weird-looking Joker-smiling bird right before King's fall? It creeped me out. We're soon revealed to not only the Golden Guard himself, but his voice.
Unfortunately, you won't have the chance.
I mean, it was weak. I mean, sure the guy's a teen, but dang was I anticipating a much more dark and intimidating tone like the Emperor's. Last major detail about this scene was the code location for this episode. My gosh, I just know that I wasn't the only one who had trouble finding this thing, let alone see it. Sure, I had to increase the brightness on my panel, but forget about that. It was still difficult to see due to its small appearance. But all rants aside, the code apparently reads the word seething, and as for whether or not this season has a special message by using every first letter of each episode title, it's definitely more than possible. Because as of so far, we have the phrase, seek the K, which obviously is not the complete sentence quite yet. Soon the crew eventually stumble upon the creature they've all been anticipating, but once they're soon to be capturing it, Ida interrupts with a fiery distraction, all in order to steal the money from off of the ship, which Luz discovers after using her glyph spells to catch up with Ida. However, not only does Luz manage to catch up with Ida, but the Golden Guard himself shows up to the scene in a nick of time as well, using King as leverage to get Luz to slay the creature, which turned out to be an innocent animal as long as you're not a threat to it or its children. And much like Lilith, Luz feels the need to adventure her way out of this alone due to her guilt in getting Ida into trouble. Although, like Ida explains, Luz's guilt-driven brain is clouding her judgment because if anything, Luz in a big way actually made her life much better. And as mentioned before, the Selkie-Damas is a kind and gentle creature as long as their children are safe, so Luz and Ida concoct a plan to make it seem as if they both slayed the beast using shadows. Just like what the creature in the very beginning of the episode had done to nearly trick Luz. Their method is proven to work just fine, as not only did they have a strong, terrible smelling odor, but Ida using vegetation glyphs clearly did the job. In the end, the Selkie-Damas thanks them by puking out some Selkie grist, which, as explained by Ida, was something worth a lot of money at the market. That probably would explain why the Emperor wanted it to be slain, but then again, why would he not tell his Golden Guard to retrieve the grist? Going back to the Owl House, Lilith surprisingly becomes friends with Hooty and reveals a spell that allows them to spy on the guards of the Emperor, something they can use to tell whenever the guards are approaching their direction in order to cause more mayhem. However, it's possible that Belos may have placed down a reverse Uno card, as it seems as if another spell is developed behind the walls of the castle and the Emperor is seen turning around facing in that same direction. It just seemed a bit too coincidental considering how the guards do react to the spell unfolding, so it's not like it's imaginary. We also witness a slight bit of a facial reveal from Belos, mainly his hair, which maybe is a hint showing that he truly is an old geezer using magic to preserve his youth, and or potentially the father of the Golden Guard. And here's why. I personally can't imagine Belos trusting anyone to be worthy enough to possess another staff like his unless that person was of his own flesh and blood. Plus, just comparing his proper way of speech, his way of negotiating, and once again, his hair color, it matches up quite nicely. For all we know, Belos could be wanting to return to Earth as he is a human himself and knows of its usefulness. I mean, I still don't even believe that portal to the human realm is actually Ida's. Come on, bro. Now, one last thing was this portion of the introduction where I had gotten the theory from some of you that just like before, the people shown on the cards became Luce's acquaintances in the end. And within this introduction, it's possible that it may be the case again. I'm hoping that that's not the case, however, because I don't want to witness another Steven universe where nearly every villain gets reformed. But all in all, this episode was pretty great, especially given how they refreshed our memories of the events that transpired in the season 1 finale. I just wish it were more exciting with more reveals and even more things to look forward to. Not saying that there wasn't, but they could have had more, for example, pizzazz, like the Amphibia premiere. I will, however, give them props for the outro though. I love the art they used and understand why they had to change it up a bit, with Amity now being a part of the group, Lilith living with them, and more. The art style reminded me of that El Dorado ancient art type of design, but anywho, please like this video. It took hard work. Share this with the people you know love the Owl House. And this has been The Next Big Thing, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace!